Morning, Luca. Just want to start with a player's perspective on what went wrong at Port Vale in the week.
To be honest, we knew that we had to start quick. We knew they were going to come out the traps because they changed a lot of players from, who'd started at the weekend. And look, we didn't start quick enough. They started on the front foot, and it doesn't matter who you're playing against. If you give chances away in this league and in the cup, you're going to concede goals. And we made it very hard for ourselves.
Must be really frustrating because the last few league games have been a lot better, haven't they? You put in some really strong performance. It must be a surprise and a disappointment to see the drop off.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the way the team have been playing and the place we're in, we've been in a good place, and we just need to make sure that we can bounce back quick from this. And all the lads, all the staff wanted to get through and go as far as they can in the cup, but we've got to take that on the chin now and move on to Saturday in the other cup, and then get the form back ready for the league.
Yeah, how important will it be to get rid of performances and results like this if you're going to be serious contenders towards the top end of League One this season?
Yeah, definitely. We've got to keep scorelines like that down to a minimum. If you look, we're not going to win and draw every game. We're going to lose a few. That's just the nature of football. But we've got to keep it to fine margins. We've got to make sure that we're making it as tough as we can for everyone, and pick up as many points as we can, and just make sure that we can brush them scorelines off, brush the losses off, and move on from them.
I mean, maybe taking the Port Vale game aside, do you personally feel that you're playing as consistently as you have for a while?
Yeah, definitely. And that's thanks to the staff and obviously the players as well, because you can't do it without them around you, and the staff are making it easy for us on the pitch and clear for what we need to do on there. But yeah, I'm feeling fit and healthy, and I think that's the main thing going into these parts of the season, that you just make sure that you're playing as many minutes as you can and playing the best you can, and hopefully that'll bring along some points on the way.
How helpful for you has it been having a head coach playing that played in a similar role, who's played really at the highest points of the game?
Yeah, look, I've spoke about it probably, since the gaffer come in. I've been asked it a few times, and it's been massive for me, even when he wasn't the gaffer and he was just coming in, first as a player. It's good to get some pointers off him, and even if it's just slight things about positioning a yard or two, it's good to be able to have someone who's done it at the highest level that you can go to and take a little note out of their book on things like this. So yeah, it's massive, and especially now when he's gaffer, he's, as I said, he's done it at the highest level and played under gaffers at the highest level, so every little bit of detail you've got to take on board and try and implement that going into games.
He seems to have really taken to the role of head coach, doesn't he, Conor Hourahan? How impressed have you been as a player, having watched that transition from starting his coaching journey and getting the opportunity so young?
Yeah, look, it's one of them. I think Dave got asked a similar question. I seen a clip of it the other day on my phone, and it's just the effort that he puts in, the time that he puts in. You can tell he deserves the job he's got, and if Barnsley fans want to hear it or not, he's got potential to go right to the top, if it's with this club or not. So he's a great gaffer, and the time and the energy that he puts into it, there's no doubt that when we're going out onto the pitch, we know every little thing about the opposition or the way we're going to play and things like that. So yeah, he's really took to it, and fair play to him.
I know you're still only 24 yourself. I think the fact that you've been at the club a few years, you've been captain, I think we all probably think of you as a bit older, but from that perspective, how impressed have you been with some of the younger players, the other ones that are coming through, in particularly with Jonathan Bland and Vimal Yoganathan in your position? I imagine you could play a bit of the I'm learning off Connor, but equally I've got a job to do with these other lads as well.
Yeah, it's massive, and look, again, fair play to the lads, like the younger lads. I think we've got probably 5-6 starters in the last few weeks who are 24, 25 and under, which is, it's young for League One. You see a lot of experienced players in this league, and you come up against a lot of teams with experienced players, but the lads have been brilliant. They've been given the opportunity, and that's all you can ask for. If you get the opportunity and you don't take it, then you can only blame yourself. But the lads have took it. They've been brilliant, and they don't look like they're coming off it anytime soon.
Do you enjoy kind of helping others, particularly in similar positions with their development? Because you've obviously got experiences that can help them now.
Yeah, you know, as you say, I'm still only 24 myself, and I definitely don't know everything about the game, and that's why I'm lucky I've got, you know, Robbo, Connor, Didsy, you know, I can take something off every day, and, you know, when we're going through the weeks and games and stuff, you can talk to them and make sure that you're picking little things up. But I've also played quite a few games for Barnsley as well, so I know what the fans expect, I know what, you know, this club represents as such, so there's definitely stuff that I can take to, you know, Blandy and V and stuff like that, just to help along the way. And, you know, there's no doubt about their ability, they don't need any help with that, but just making sure that they stay on the right track and make sure that their attitude's right, and, you know, they can go a long way.
I mean, you've been at the club a few years now. How significant is the club's backing for young players in general? Because there's always been a real focus and a real opportunity for youngsters, not just from the academy, but younger players coming in from other clubs. Yeah,
definitely. You know, I think even like PK, even like Patrick Kelly, he's coming on loan, and, you know, he started the last few and he's been brilliant. But I think this is what this club, you know, brings, and I think as soon as people mention Barnsley, I think a lot of people picture that, like the young lads coming through and, you know, trying to make a name for themselves. And that's, you know, initially when my agent mentioned Barnsley to me, I was obviously on, like, I think I was 21, and it, you know, it sounds perfect, you're excited to come and get on board with it. And yet I think that's just what this club brings, and that's why, you know, a lot of players it's good for them to be here and, you know, have a stage to perform on.
Talk to me about your free kick against Luton. Not a bad one, was it?
No, you know what, I've been practising, and I'd had a couple of close ones the few weeks before, but kept practising with a few of the coaches outside and stuff, and, you know, as soon as Dave got brought down, I fancied myself, and yeah, luckily it went in.
I imagine you like a few more. You know, you've scored a few notable goals for Barnsley, but I'm sure that you're still itching to contribute a few more from that perspective.
Yeah, no, you're right, definitely. It's something that I think is just the next stage of my game, just making sure that I'm getting the numbers. I'm confident that I can affect the game for the team in different ways, but I think getting numbers and more goals and more assists is key. And I think, you know, we've been close to a few corners this year where it's a couple of assists, and I've had a couple of close chances or that they would work. So yeah, I'll keep cracking on, and hopefully I can get a few more numbers.
Just some thoughts on the FA Cup game this weekend at Peterborough. Clearly a team in the same division. I imagine that the focus will be on giving a big response to what happened in the week.
Yeah, as you say, that'll be the plan going forward. We're going to obviously go through it today and make sure that we're ready for Saturday. But, you know, they've been in good form, Peterborough, since, you know, the new managers come in, and we know in this league you can, no matter where teams are in the league, or if you're playing them in the cup, then teams are going to come, they're going to be ready. So we'll make sure that we do the same, and we'll be prepared for Saturday.
Always enjoy chatting. Thank you, Luke.
Thanks, Ed.
Hi, Luca. Just a few from me, mate.
Yeah.
Just going back to the midweek game quickly. You know, the manager said sort of afterwards that the players had to look at themselves and see if they sort of prepared right for the game. I mean, is that something that, as a group, you feel needs to be sort of considered for a few players?
No, look, I think, you know, going forward, I know I definitely prepared for the game as if you'd prepare for any game, and I'm sure the lads would have, but it's just a case of, you know, you're playing at Port Vale on a Tuesday night. It's not an easy place to go. It's in the cup, it's not in the league, so is that a slight different mentality going into the game? For some people, I don't know, but, you know, we've got to make sure that can't happen again. Obviously, it won't happen in the Virtue Trophy again, but, you know, going into Saturday, going into any league game that we're playing, even if it's going to be a tough place to go, we have to be mentally prepared and, you know, ready to go into the games ready, no matter where or when it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, the next game is FA Cup. I mean, I know there may be a few changes, but you're only one win away from potentially getting a really good third round draw. I know you'll be focusing on the match, but it could be exciting, couldn't it, if you get into that third round?
Yeah, as you say, it's important that we focus on Peterborough first and try and get the job done there. But of course, everyone knows, you know, the big teams come in the third round, and, you know, you'd be lying if you said you didn't want to get through and play one of the big teams. So we had a nice experience against Man United. It's obviously good to go to Old Trafford and play, but you don't want to concede 7 again. But you know, it's one of them. You want to be able to play against these teams, test yourself against the best, and you know, see how far off it you really are.
Yeah, and obviously yourself, you played in the trophy. You've played lots of games. I mean, is that just sort of sometimes sort of like a captain or one of the bigger players might get rested for certain cup games, but you just up for starting pretty much every match at the moment? Yeah,
whenever the gaffer picks the team, and you know, if he wants me in it, you know, I'll be more than ready. As I say, I can vouch for that. I prepare for every game the same, and you know, the mentality is the same going into every game. But yeah, I'm enjoying playing games while I'm fit and healthy. That's, as I say, I keep touching on that after a couple of years ago. That's just the main thing to me, and you know, I enjoy playing. I want to play as many games as I can, and yeah, we'll see going into Saturday.
Just wanted to ask you as well, there's been a little bit of a change in style this year. I think Connor's talked about how he's sort of he doesn't want to just sort of like hoof clearances when you're in defence. He wants you to take risks and pass out from the back and start counter-attacks. I know you're a big part of that. I mean, is that something that obviously you have to play risky passes sometimes and judge it and get it right, but is that something you thrive on, maybe taking a bit of a risk sort of in an area and getting it right and leading to a counter-attack goal potentially?
Yeah, 100%. That's what I'd say is probably one of the strong points, you know, and I think you'll see in a few of the games, if we can connect that first pass in and around the edge of our box and be calm with it, it can set, you know, Didsy, Reyes, Davo, whoever it is up the top of the pitch, set them off to go forward and, you know, create the goals that they have been doing. And look, not every pass is going to be perfect, whether it's from me, the centre halves, or whoever it is, but if we're going to concede the chance from playing out, the gaffer's told us it's not a problem. Just make sure the reaction's there. We sprint back and, you know, make sure that we don't concede the goal from it, and, you know, we'll do it again the next time and make sure that, you know, when we do get it right, hopefully it can lead to a chance up the top.
And just lastly for me, obviously this is your fourth season with Barnsley. You've seen a lot of different sort of teams and quite a few promotion challenges as well. I mean, you see, it's early days, of course, still not even at Christmas yet, but you've seen sort of signs of something, you know, potentially could be really good this season? Yeah,
hopefully, you know, we just need to just find a bit more consistency. As soon as we find a bit more consistency, you know, I think we'll be fine. I think we've got the potential to hopefully be up there at the end, and, you know, we've just got to focus, take every game as it comes, and, you know, hopefully we can just keep ticking them off, winning games, picking up points, and, you know, see where it takes us January, February time, and then, you know, give it the last push after that.
Thanks, Luca.
Cheers.
Hi, Luca. I've not got too many. I was just sort of thinking about yourself as a captain. You've been doing it a bit now. How do you think you've sort of developed in it? Are you sort of a bit quieter, a bit calmer, or are you more intense? Or how do you develop with it?
Yeah, to be honest, I don't think too much has changed, just because, you know, I think I was quite loud and quite intense anyway, and I think that's probably a side of my game that's, you know, very important to if I'm playing well or not. If, you know, if I'm sort of on the edge and, you know, if I'm being energetic and running around, that's, you know, that's when I'm at my best. So not a lot has changed, apart from maybe, you know, one or two of the young lads come to you and ask like for little things here and there, but, you know, if it's not me, there's plenty of experience in the room. As I said, you know, going to, you know, Didsy, Robbo, you know, Phil or Josh, they've all played a lot of games. So yeah, it's just not a lot has changed, but it's been obviously a pleasure for me to captain the club, and, you know, long may it continue.
Do you pick your moments sometimes when to have a go at something? I mean, sometimes you have to choose your moments as a captain, can't you?
Yeah, 100%. And I think, you know, some people are different to others. Some people need, you know, encouraging. Some people need a kick up the behind. That's just the nature of football, and, you know, that's not down to the captain. That's down to every single player on the pitch to do that to each other, because, you know, we've all got to be leaders out there. We've all got to make sure each other's standards are right, and, you know, I'm definitely one who I think needs to kick up the behind if I'm not on it, to make sure that I'm trying to react from that. But obviously different players are different, and you've got to try and find that balance and make sure that, you know, you're treating each player right and how they need it.
You must think this is a big season for you personally. I think it's is it your fourth year at Barnsley? You sort of, you know, you're not a kid now. You're coming up to your sort of mid-20s, and, you know, you'll be desperate to sort of do well and get to the championship, won't you? Really, I mean, it's a big season for you.
Yeah, you know, it's no secret everyone wants to play at the top of the game, and, you know, everyone wants to get to that next level, and, you know, hopefully we can do it this year with Barnsley, and, you know, as I say, if you ask anybody in that changing room, do they want to play in the Championship next year, it's going to be yeah, do you know what I mean? Everyone wants that, so yeah, hopefully I can play well, do everything I can, and yeah, we can get to the Championship for next year.
Just tell me a little bit about Bramley. He's obviously come in and he's impressed a lot of people, and he looks like he's someone who's not going to be intimidated. He's a young kid and he feels like he belongs. What do you sort of like about him? Yeah,
look, he's a tough kid. He's a good player. He's got ability. Do you know what I mean? I don't need to speak about his ability and stuff like that. Everyone can see that. Everyone can see out on the pitch what he can do. That's, words don't need to be said about that. But I think it's just his attitude, listening. Like, if you do tell him, a lot of kids nowadays, if I'm saying kid, he's only a couple of years younger than me, but do you know what I mean? If you tell someone, it's like, they don't want to listen and stuff, but he listens, takes it on board, and you can see going forward how much he's like a sponge, basically, and it'll work brilliant for him, not just listening to me, but again, listening to the gaffer, because, same position, he can learn off people who have done it at the top as well. So, yeah, it's a massive season for Blandy, but again, I'm sure he will, but as long as he keeps his feet on the floor and his attitude right, he can go a long way.
I was going to ask you finally, I mean, you've shown as a team, you've shown some really good signs in spells. What do you need to do to sort of get better? I mean, you showed it against Luton, you were that close to getting a really good result at Stockport. You've got it in you. What do you need to do better consistently to sort of really be up there?
Yeah, I think you've just touched on it there. I think it's literally just the consistency. We've showed a lot of times this season, how good we can be, and we just need to make sure we maintain them levels. And, I think we were conceding cheap goals towards the start of the season, which I think we've probably cut out, obviously, bar Tuesday, but yeah. I think in the league, we've been pretty solid. Obviously, the goal against Stockport, it's come from a lot of crosses and good movement, to be fair, from their goal scorer. But I think as long as we're just, consistent and we're hard to score against, then, we've got lads at the top of the pitch that can create goals and, win us games.
Yeah, thanks for your time as ever, Connor.
Perfect. Thanks, lads. Appreciate it.